Mauricio can fix it.
Okay, there we go. Mhm.
After a year of doing Zoom, I never knew how to do that until he told me. It is what it is.
That's funny. I would say, that's not your strong suit. I love you though.
And I can own that. But my strong suit is the fact that I can own that and not be offended and be okay with that.
Okay. I think it is recording, and if it's not, I don't care. And
My
that's
screen
how
says it's recording. Up in the
good.
top left-hand corner, it says
Oh,
recording.
okay. Then we're so sexy and so sassy. Hello. Thank you to the person who is probably me who is watching this video right now. I'm very, very excited that you're here, and all of you. We are going to do a book club. From MoonCricket Productions, we have the book club, which discusses Caste, the origins of our discontent by Isabel Wilkerson. And we'll have some serious topics because I'm sorry if caste and race is not serious to you, something's wrong. But it can also be funny because people spend a lot of time trying to be racist, and every once in a while you're like, wow, you stumbled on hilarity in your in your pursuit to be oppressive. So with a bunch of comedians and folks from all different walks of life, we're just gonna do our thug thizzle and see what happens, right? Right. Click them. People involved who said yes to me when I was like, "Will you do this?" They were like, "I guess I have to say yes because she knows where I live." It is Denise Moore, Mauricio Rosas Alvarez, Sombra Williams, and I said yes to me, and that's important. Just so you know, say yes to yourself. All right. If you are joining in and you're like, man, I love these people. They're great. They make me happy, which we do. Uh, get your book cast at Community Book Center. That's on Bayou Road or anywhere that the cast book is sold. It's not just sold there. It's only sold in one place. You have to travel and get it. But Mama Vera and Mama Jen are wonderful people. And the reason I have the book in the first place is because Mama Jennifer was like, read it. I read it during dinner time to my family. Read it. So when you get a recommendation like that, you have to go forward. And let's do that. Let's go forward. Do, 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 do. With hello. Um, did anyone want to say like, hey, I'm Sombra and I'm here to say I love Fruity Pebbles in a major way? Anybody need to feel like they need to introduce themselves?
You just did a great job of introducing me. I don't have anything else to say.
I'm
Well,
Mauricio. I
Marie,
don't love Fruity Pebbles.
Mauricio doesn't love Fruity Pebbles because he's a dietitian. Okay.
I don't either, but you said it
Also,
so
they're really
convincingly that
small. Like they're almost too small. I want my cereal to be like attacking my mouth.
So you really like
okay.
what's the thing that always messes up the roof of your mouth?
Shredded
Mm,
wheat. Like I want a spoonful of shredded wheat, just like
I
Uncle
want a
Sam's.
broom.
What's that Sam's one? The ones that got flaxseed and like every grain known to man. Is it Uncle Sam? It's in a little red, white, and
oh,
blue.
Uncle Sam. Yeah,
Is
but
that
Uncle
it?
Sam has whole flax seeds, and that's like a little too harsh. Like I tried to grind up flax seeds mechanically before I
Yeah.
started to do
You
it with
can't
my own
handle
hands.
whole flax seeds. You're not tough.
you're not
Yo,
you're not
with your
real.
middle flaxseed eating self.
I was thinking Captain Crunchberries. Those things like rip up the top of your mouth over and over again. You're like, not only is the sugar bad for me, I also now have a place for bacteria to breed. Right?
It's
It's
kind of
really
scary that it doesn't really melt that fast with all the sugar in it. Somehow it's shellacked so it can still attack you while you eat
that's
it.
right. And
Mhm.
that conversation has a lot to do with Caste, the book that we're reading today. I love y'all. So I did want to jump into the topic, mostly just have a little bit where we are going to talk about. what is caste and how it is defined. But before we get to that kind of bigger picture, like what were some things that stood out to you? Things that you thought about and you're like, wow, we really need to discuss this. I think we talked a little bit about meritocracy. Did anybody want to jump on that?
Okay, I'll jump on that like a
Meritocracy.
landmine. I was, I was painfully aware of the fact that, I mean, hey, y'all, I just turned 50, like a week or so ago. Hey,
Hey, happy
hey, hey. And I
birthday
realized that,
to you.
and when I said they taught us that in civics class, I forgot you guys are like a good decade, at least decade or two younger than me. So maybe they didn't teach you America was a meritocracy in civics class in high school. But the whole idea, if you just work hard enough, if you work hard enough, like the whole, Protestant work ethic, you have beautiful things because you work hard, and God gives you wonderful things because he loves you. And if you don't have a lot of good stuff, that means God doesn't love you.
Mhm, mhm.
So I know that that's not the reality, but that filter's still there. And sometimes I have to try to dial that down in my head, because it feels, well, gaslighting is a whole nother thing. I feel like, for generations, people of color have been gaslighted into, you just haven't worked hard enough. You just haven't worked hard enough. If there's an Oprah Winfrey good book club, and if there's a Barack Obama, then you should be able to be a media mogul as well, type thing.
Right, right. I definitely think it comes into play when you start talking about um, when people just say you're not at the same space. Well, if black people are not at the same space as white people, it's just because they didn't work hard, and that's an
Yep.
easier way to do it. Like
Mm,
it's just to put it as a failing of the person
mm.
makes it so that you don't have to do anything, right?
Or you're trying to blame your issues on everybody else. That's one of my personal favorites.
Hmm.
If you just stop blaming people and just work harder. But like I said, that, well, maybe not during the recording, but to me, that's some Kaiser Soze level of, of deceit. It's there. Um, the barriers are there, but our society, white supremacy, has taught us that, America is a meritocracy. Look how far people go when they really work hard. And if you don't make it that far, that means, you just didn't work hard enough. And the whole time I was reading, I just kept thinking about, where does a meritocracy fit in with caste? And I realized that's
Mm.
like a major difference between the American myth and some of the parallels that she draws between, say, Nazi Germany and the caste system in India.
Yeah, and I wonder. I mean, I wonder just how powerful the idea of meritocracy is anyway, right? Because if I work hard, I'm supposed to get somewhere.
Mm,
And so if I work hard and I don't get somewhere, it is also because of somebody else. Right? So in the sense of like what we're seeing now in the angry white supremacist like movement, this idea of I worked hard for everything I have, but I don't have anything. And I was promised that if I work hard, I would get something. So it's a lie to them too. Like
well,
it doesn't serve you either.
but then that's when you can look around and you blame it on those people that are coming and taking my jobs. That's the problem. It's not me. They came and took my job.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Golly. This is some heavy, heavy stuff that we're about to do, that we're about to embark on. So thank you for strapping in for this journey. Um, I will say we're strapped in for a journey, but let's just say I never took any of the engineering courses or how to make a strap. So I just have like this rope. We just tie ourselves together and hope that works out. Denise or Mauricio, anything you want to add before we go into the larger question of like what is caste?
I mean, just a general thank you. I think you tend to like kind of minimize all the stuff that you're doing, but I mean, let's be honest, without you putting this together, getting us together, like I don't get to have these conversations often, and I kind of just dismiss it as like, okay, well, that's part of like being an adult, and you just have to accept things as they are and not really talk about them. But giving us this platform is like the best thing that you can do, even if it's not perfect. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect because it starts with having that conversation.
Hmm. Oh, well, thank you.
Amen, Mauricio.
Revolution, revolution. Also, whatever Denise has, she needs to share. Okay, don't come on this Zoom and you didn't make enough for everybody. Okay, put the recipe out. That's what you do. Wait, it's cereal. Is it cereal? Let it be cereal.
It has whole
It's
flax
not
seeds.
cereal.
Captain Crunch.
It's a salmon teriyaki bowl from Whole Foods that are
Ooh.
very expensive. They're like $11.99. But I was like, by the time I get home, I'm not going to feel like cooking. And so I'm trying to arrange my iPad so that I can like duck my head away while I eat. So I'm not eating on camera. I don't know if that's going to work out. You might just have to have me eating on camera.
Denise,
I'm
right
starving.
here. Denise, right, hit it, right, yeah, right there, hit that right there.
She's lying.
No,
She's
I am
completely
lying.
lying. Oh my gosh.
Okay, we'll stop.
Well, I like how you're like, I'm gonna position it. I'm always like, oh, was I supposed to move the camera? Sorry. Go, y'all
I
go.
turned the
Everybody
camera
else
off.
talk.
See, I was eating when we first started at 6, but that's why my camera was off.
Oh, no, I like to be rude. So now that we all talked about our food habits, again, we know where we are, we know who we are. That's our next thing is a food show, right? Is what is caste? So in part one, I felt like, uh, is it Dr. Wilkerson or just Wilkerson? I don't want to be disrespectful, but that Isabel Wilkerson was setting out like the basic foundation of what we're going to jump into and letting us understand what caste is. And for me, I had never, like, the only time I heard the word caste is when we talk about India, right? India has a caste and we don't. Right? But once you start reading, immediately you're like, well, for me, immediately I was like, yes, yep. I don't I don't see the argument. Like, you're laying all this down, but I couldn't even argue with it because I was like, the idea that we are working within a system that is the studs of the building. I believe she had one where she was talking about it's the studs of the building. You don't see it, but it's always holding that building up. I was like, that I totally relate to that. When I think about race, I think about in our system, I think about like the air we breathe. Like, you don't always see it, and then every once in a while you get a strong gust of wind and your stuff is knocked down and you remember, but you don't always see it, but it's just there. What about you? Like, when you were looking at when you were reading the book and she described caste, what were you taking away? What were you getting?
Yeah, I to second what you just said, that at one point she was talking about how nowadays we're at least two generations removed from some of the like stuff that built the foundation, and so everybody's excuse is, well, it wasn't my ancestors, or I wasn't there, or I'm not this because of this, that, and the other. And so the fact that the foundation is it's crumbled, like that affects everybody regardless of whether you built it yourself or not, right? So it's like, I'm thinking the analogy, you move into a house that has a shitty foundation and you buy it, it doesn't matter that you weren't the one that built it, it's still yours now, so you have to deal with it. And she made it kind of like a call to action, like you're either going to deal with it now, or you're just going to accept the repercussions of not dealing with it.
Hmm. Yeah, the house analogy was really good. She was like, it's a crack in the house. I'm like, oh, oh no, it's like a horror movie. Oh no. Actually, the whole thing, the whole time she was describing Cass, I felt like it was a horror movie. Like, I was like, this could, if you did this right, you could turn this into a scary movie with the sounds and everything. It's all around you. Dune, dune. It's cutting up the roof of your mouth. Dune. Sorry, I'm back on the cereal.
You own the cereal. You own the cereal.
um, I was looking at looking at a quote. Have y'all been like writing in your book, or do y'all not do that? Are y'all people that write in your books?
Pencil. After a while, I realize I need to underline things. I try not to, but after a while, I break up my little pencil and start putting little asterisks and
I underline with pencil, and then I like um, fold the corner of the page so that I can refer back to it later.
Hmm.
Posties.
I'm reading my copy on Kindle. So I have like you can highlight things and then you can take notes as well on whatever you highlighted in case there was like something you want to elaborate on.
Was there something you highlighted when you were talking about when we were talking about the caste system?
Oh
Or anything
God,
that
I
y'all
highlighted
underlined?
a lot. What particular chapter? 'Cause it's been a while since I read the first part.
Well, for me on like page 17, I had highlighted multiple times.
Yeah,
But the
I
part
have
that I
two
liked
big chunks
was,
highlighted.
yeah, what did you highlight there?
A caste system is an artificial construction, a fixed and embedded ranking of human value that sets the presumed supremacy of one group against the presumed inferiority of other groups on the basis of ancestry and often immutable traits that would be neutral in the abstract but are ascribed life and death meaning in a hierarchy favoring the dominant caste whose forebears designed it. And then
Yeah,
there's another giant chunk that I'm not going to read, but it must have been the entire page that I highlighted.
yeah, I'm with you on that. I was like, girl, wait a minute, is that a run-on sentence? Not get my book come. I can't get my book to. It won't show up through my. Okay. um, but that whole part that you read was one sentence. I was like, yeah, I feel bad if I just mark this. If I just highlight this whole page, I have a feeling. So I'm not gonna do it. But I definitely highlight that same part, like understanding that it's artificial. How did that ring for you? That the cast is artificial?
Well, she was saying that it's not like it's not a complete set thing. It's people blame like morality or God as like being a divine thing that created this, but they're all man-made like distinctions that they're not actual real differences. So it's to me that was kind of one of the things, and you pointed to page 17, so I kind of went back to it. And the way I like to like make notes is instead of just reading the sentence that hit me, because then I'll just end up highlighting the entire book. I usually focus on like nouns and then adjectives, and that way I'm like, this was a powerful choice of words. And one of the things that she mentioned was power and resources, and then she goes on to say which caste is seen as worthy of them and which are not, who gets to acquire and control them and who does not. It's about respect, authority, and assumptions of competence. And I was like, this is very true. I mean, in the professional world, unless you were able to put a whole bunch of money into higher education and go into higher paying jobs off the bat, it's extremely difficult to work your way up because of the assumption of competence. Like, well, you've never done this and you didn't study this, so you will never get this like ultimate professional position. And I know I'm trying to change the conversation, but
No,
like that was very powerful to me, that like there are so many castes out there that are just man-made created, and their assumptions of who is worthy and competent of using resources.
Well, Sombra, you have a background within the church, and so I think that hits a little bit on that when Mauricio said about like who's worthy, who of these resources, and then like God is like added on top of that. It is God that ordains whether you're good or bad or deserving of these things. How do you think that how and you don't have to go into it, but like how do you feel like that those two are used together to maintain and to create caste?
Well, I'll throw out another reference point. I don't know if you're familiar with Jamar Tisby's work, The Color of Compromise. He digs into how not only was the Western and American church a part of establishing not just slavery, but maintaining, he doesn't call it a caste system, but maintaining it, but basically in 1619, developing it and co-signing it. And generation to generation, it's been absorbed in different ways. The terminology might change, but all the way back to the curse of Ham, there was always some type of biblical text that was misapplied or abused, frankly, abused to show that, dark people, Black people, whomever, basically to strip away the humanity of specifically Black folk. And there's another group of scholars, I'll say even seminarians that have been, they're probably a generation behind me, folks in their, late 20s, early 30s that are going back and saying, hey, we're all created in the image of God, the Imago Dei, right? But unfortunately, I'll say Western, specifically American church, as we know it, has been stripping away the humanity, basically saying the divine image that is in every child of God, everybody, specifically Black folks have had to fight for that level of dignity that is intrinsic in the Bible. But, basically being, when the Bible is sharpened, wrong, misapplied, abused, manhandled as a tool and a weapon to dehumanize. And that's really,
right.
how it's happened. But I mean, other folks have made those arguments, but just another, piece, if you want to dig into it later, Jamar Tisby, Color Compromise, he breaks it down from 1619 to present day. Even to the fact that to bring up race, I mean, even this week, I'm talking about people that I know this week, Christians saying, but God doesn't see color. And it's like, well, then this was a mistake. I mean, that's how ill-prepared people, even people in church, are to have a conversation around race, because just bringing up race to them seems heretical. But I think that goes back to the way church folks were raised to, one, not question authority, leadership. And going back to Mauricio, what you were saying earlier, the quotes that you were bringing out, the caste is also symbolic, right? It only has the power that we ascribe to it, like money. You know what I'm saying? That dollar bill doesn't really have any value. It's what we all agree it stands for. And the system that built it, which was actually built by folks. And I think of caste in the same way. It has the value that we have ascribed to it.
And I think Isabella Wilkerson also talks about like the value, how oh my gosh, it was like, how smart was it to take a system of caste and place it on attributes that cannot be changed? Like you're born with this, and now if you map it onto this, it's so easy to upkeep, and it becomes shorthand. There was a part where she talked about like the alphabet. I wish I remember what page it was on, but she was talking about the alphabet, and she was like, yeah, they're just letters. And then you put them together and they become words, and you put them in sentences, but they only have meaning because we ascribe those meanings to them. And caste helps us understand what the meaning is. When you see a white person, what you're supposed to believe. When you see a Black person, what you're supposed to believe. When you see a person of color in general, what are you supposed to believe? And you can just shorthand it because you're not white. All right, how far are you from the top rung? I think she said it was like undercast or something like that. Like how far are you from the top? And based on that, I know how to treat you. And I know what you deserve, and I know what resources, like you said, Mauricio, what resources you deserve.
Yeah, she was saying that Black people are not even Black, but white people are not even white either. So it's like we chose to use those two extremes to make it, I guess, easier to distinguish that. But there's so much in between that you're bound to be lost by it.
Which brings me to black licorice.
Nobody likes black licorice.
Since we're talking about have moments where we talk about food, why is black licorice disgusting? I always was like, for real, the one thing that I'm supposed to relate to with this black licorice, and it's horrible. They could have made that any taste. They had to make it. I guess that's anise. It's like the word.
Anise, yeah.
Anise. So
But see, break that down though, because licorice has been what? It's been manhandled, manufactured, it's been tainted by unnatural substances. But seriously, the pure anise seed, I don't like licorice. Don't like it. But anise, that's some good stuff.
really,
Yeah. The whole,
no.
like, have you ever gone to an Indian restaurant and they give you that little blend at the end that's supposed to be like a
Anise
like a
and
mint? It's got anise and other things that you just chew up, and you can taste the anise,
yeah.
but it doesn't taste like licorice. Somebody just effed up anise by making it into licorice. The flavor itself is quite delicious.
Well, isn't anise like a special flavor or something? Is it one of those?
It's part of a seed. Well, star anise, you know, like I could take it out of my pantry. It's a whole spice.
Hmm.
But I mean,
You'll
there's
see.
other examples too. Like when you're talking about the black sheep of the family, why you gotta be black?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
Yep.
Oh, the dark, my favorite, the dark continent. Ooh.
Dark horse.
Oh.
See, it's like a scary movie. Oh, the dark horse.
Why is it that White Christmas is like a beloved family movie, but then Black Christmas is a horror movie?
Oh, it's a bad one too.
Come on, Revolution.
The original is terrible. The remake is fine, but the original, yeah.
And
I like the original better. I like
The
the
what?
original
original
better
better?
mainly because I was surprised at how well it treated abortion. Like the main character wants to get an abortion, and it was made in the 70s. And I was surprised it was treated like this is a good decision for her to make. Like this is the right decision that she doesn't want to have kids. And she gives like a good explanation to her boyfriend, who's like, "Oh, well, we'll go and get married because that's what you want, right? That's what'll make you keep this kid." And she's like, "I thought you liked me because I was ambitious and I wanted to have a career. I can't do that and have a baby," which I mean, nowadays isn't true, but back then it would have been a lot harder for her to do that. But that made it the only reason that I liked that version better than the newer one.
For me, it all goes back to the story. Like, what's the whole reason? What's the story, right?
Yeah, we don't
At
find
the
out
end,
anything about the killer.
exactly. There's nothing. And I was kind of surprised at how long they let the obscene phone call go on. I mean, it got pretty
What?
graphic. And I was like, if you can be so graphic about an obscene phone call, and then you there was the whole backdrop thing of like Tommy might have killed or abused
Okay.
someone himself. Type
spoiler
thing.
alert. That's one thing we didn't
I'm
say.
just-
Spoiler
I'm just
alert.
saying.
Right?
But
Lord.
it fell apart, and then in the end you realize, you know what, he's still in the house, they're all gonna die anyway. You know what I'm saying? So she don't need the abortion because he gonna kill her too, right? So
And how that relates to Caste is the abortion of our dreams. Our dreams have been aborted.
They were ended before they were even born.
There you go. There you go. One thing I wanted to bring y'all's attention to on page 25, I don't know if any of y'all had looked at this. It goes back to this idea of like meritocracy and, you know, how everyone fits on this ladder. And it talks about the meal worker. It says the meal worker with no one else to look down on regards himself as eminently superior to the Negro, observed the Yale scholar Liston Pope in 1942. The colored man represents his last outpost against social oblivion. I look at that and I'm like, that's 2021 right there. That's 2016, right? That's the election. That's where we are. This whole
that's Make America Great Again.
Yes.
That's Make America Great Again.
I even wrote a note. What did I say? Yeah, like the conspiracy theories and all these things that are kind of like wrapped around this idea of like, I can't be at the bottom. No, I'm supposed to have stuff. And if a Black person gets stuff and I don't have stuff, then they're taking it from me, right? They're keeping me from it. And I'm like, stop looking over here to the Black person and look at the caste system. This is all about class and economics and money, right? And all of this, so a small group of people can have a whole lot and the rest of us can have a bunch of nothing. And so instead of looking at the systems that create that, we're looking at each other. What do y'all think?
Well, I also think, I'm sorry, go ahead, Denise. Was Denise saying something? No, she's on mute. It makes me think of how like the Tulsa race riots or Black Wall Street, when Black folks did accumulate wealth, what mobilized white vigilantes to go and take them out? You're Black. My system, they didn't call it caste. My belief system, what my world has taught me is that you don't deserve that. It's my right to take it from you. So I think that's how that kind of striking out, those murderous rampages, lynching, you name it. This is the cost for breaking the system. This is the cost for attempting to step outside those lines. And I know at least a couple of times in between pages like 24 and 27, there's the concept of there's even a quote, keeping the Negro in his place. Like, we've got the system and we've got to figure out a way to keep folks there, especially with the threat of Reconstruction. Now we had to figure out something, had to do some night rides, hang people from some trees, burn down some places to maintain that. So there's the threat that if you even attempt to rise up, the natural system will come against you.
Which is also a question we could ask, like when we talk about, because she said, eventually I'm going to talk about what's the consequences to the people who are the beneficiaries. And I always want to talk about that. Like, there is a cost to white people too. Like, but think about the loss of your humanity that you have to do in order to keep the caste in place, right? If these Black people try to get the rights which they deserve like anybody else, I, as a person that is disenfranchised, have to now make sure that they don't get it. Right? So now I have to, hey, babe, did you clean my robe? You didn't clean my robe? You know I need my hood tonight, right? people in there working, you know what I'm saying? She's like, I'm sewing as fast as I can. You know what I'm saying?
Was it Blazing Saddles? I can't see through the holes in my wife made that. I can't see through it.
Sounds like Django on Chad. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
You're echoing. Yeah. You put your earbuds in, babe.
I got them in.
You do? Okay. Well, experience.
Yeah, it sounds like Django on Chain when the wife had made the hoods.
Oh, that's what I was talking about. It wasn't Blazing Saddles. It was Django.
I can't see. Yeah, you know, there's a cost to your own humanity, like the work of keeping someone else in place, and you do it, right? Like the people that are amassing the wealth, they don't have to keep the system in place. The system is like running, right? As long as you continue to pull resources out. But the people that are fighting for resources have to fight each other to get it. And so I feel like white people are sitting around like angry and mad and upset and hurt and all of these things, when it's like, this system is bad for everyone. It's bad for everyone. Sorry, that was a lot. Like,
it also made me think about how it's a lot easier to maintain like the bottom rung of a caste system instead of trying to fight to like just completely destroy the system so there's no one on the bottom. It's always just easier to be like the person who like is, even if you're just above the bottom rung, it's easier to do that than to try to join with the people at the bottom and try to help them, you know, completely destroy that whole system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think that's part of what helped Trump's base. I mean, there were folks who voted for him who really, and she mentioned it, voted against their own self-interest. And I think that was about trying to maintain a sense of supremacy, trying to maintain, well, at least I'm white and we're going to make sure that, you know, things are put back straight, you know, because those people of color have been getting out of hand. And just the idea of having someone say, you can look at those folks, point at them, blame them for where you are in your life, and think about the folks who stormed the Capitol. Something tells me you probably didn't have a whole lot of PhDs and a whole lot of, you know, billionaires, millionaires out there storming. They had they're peons, you know,
Well,
the outliers.
it also, I mean, it kind of says like some of the people that should that might have been out there storming that idea of like, but I'm one level above, right? I have enough. I have this paycheck and this paycheck does it, and I can barely cover my bills, and I have a whole bunch of student loans, and I got all these other problems. But you know what? I got my little piece, and so I just want to keep my little piece, and so I push away other people. Um, and I think that the book does a good job of starting to make us kind of look at different places, look at Nazi Germany, look at India, and be like, we're all battling the same thing, right? Right now, if we started talking about the like AAPI movement, like we're all battling the same thing, a system of oppression, but we're instead of working together, we're all individually trying to cast stones, I think, and then like fight each other at the same time.
That gosh, I can't remember if it was Coretta Scott King's one of her autobiographies or another book by Dr. King, where it talked about when he started taking, as long as he was boycotting in the South, the North was yay, yay, you do it. But when he started to move in the urban areas in Chicago up north, and started to get interest from, you know, white factory workers and people who weren't as well off as they felt like they could or should have been, that became an issue.
Yeah.
White folks in the North got a little bit mad. It's like, no, you maintain young Negroes down South. Don't come up here telling us what we need to do. Same thing with when the movement started branching over into Cesar Chavez's work.
Mm-hmm.
Just the idea that the poor people's movement, there, you don't need race to distinguish between some of the levels of oppression. And Dr. King, you know, was talking about that. And that made him more dangerous than when they started the boycott, because suddenly it wasn't just about, you know, Black people in the South. It was about poor people across the country and the world who were facing the same type of oppression.
It was about basic human rights. If you're starting like a pecking order, kind of like chickens, because there's always going to be somebody who's below you, or you think that you're better than, and at some point is like, stop oppressing that much. Like they're so like not even human anymore. It's not about like, I need to get on your level, I got to be above you. I literally just need to be a human, and you need to acknowledge that humanity.
Yeah, when I think about how I learned about Dr. King, where I get to is always that he was killed not because of what he did with Black people, but because he started to do stuff with poor people. And when he started being like, well, hey man, we all don't have, right? You hungry too, right? Yeah, we all hungry. All right, let's go. They like,
Oh,
you gotta go.
did you guys see Judas and the Black Messiah?
Oh no, I didn't see it.
Ooh, check that joint out. Check that joint out. I mean, it's like a docudrama, I guess you could call it, but it talks about how the Black Panther movement found common ground even with poor white supremacists around, you know, they'll come and beat you up in your neighborhood just as much as they beat us up in our neighborhood. So that's problematic. You got to remind, actually, a friend of mine, Rochelle, you know them. A friend of mine said that his father-in-law, ex-father-in-law, said one of the phrases that he used to just say, you know, at random, remember, you're white. He's like, what did he mean by that exactly? I don't know if it was like a self-affirmation, you know, when stuff's going down, just remember, you're white.
You're white. Phew, it was getting bad out there. For a second, I thought I wasn't white.
The book, right? Where she's like, even the lowest of the lowest white is still above a Negro.
Ah, that's a quote.
Yeah, above the highest.
Page
Negro.
25.
Above the highest.
Let the lowest white man count for more than the highest Negro.
Yeah, that's why you can get arrested in your own house, with pictures of you on the wall, and then have to go have a beer with the dude. Like I was like, come on, President Obama, I know you was trying, but like that beer is not gonna heal this rift. I just got arrested. There's literally a picture of me behind. Like that's me. I didn't come in here and put my own pictures up. Like I didn't do that. But this world, um, so when we start pushing into the next part two, which we'll do April 21st, if that works for everyone, and we can talk offline about that. Um, what are some things from the first section that you're hoping that she's gonna dig more into, or that you're like, yeah, now that she set that down, it makes me curious about these other things?
I'm really hoping she takes sort of a fly on the wall approach of I want to lay these things out without a bias so that you can see how weighed it is. I mean, this is not a light topic. I think it's easy to write something very convincing, but not so easy to take a like a step or two back just to present the information. I feel like if you're already kind of because a lot of the chapter one had a lot of context on current events, and if you're already on that side of like agreeing with her, then it's easy to continue reading. But if I guess you're not agreeing with her, I feel like people could put the book down and be like, she's not worth my time. And I wouldn't want anybody to put this book down and judge the author if it's like actually delining or defining important information or terms.
I
Yeah,
appreciate
man.
what you're.
Go ahead, Sombra.
I was going to say I appreciate what you're saying there because I felt like the part one, I guess the intro to part one, where she was talking about the anthrax that was released when the snow cap started melting and all that. That I I could appreciate where she was coming from, but it made me want to take a step back just a little because I'm like, okay, I get your word picture. I can appreciate, the metaphor that you're building upon. It's in there. It's baked in, and circumstances, environmental, whatever, can release it, and you can have the same kind of death, danger, destruction all over again. But that to me that felt kind of heavy-handed. Um, no matter how accurate it may be, I'm always conscious of whether or not a writer is trying to manipulate me into joining them in a way. For me, what really settled in and got me interested was, I want to say, was in chapter 2 when she flat out started talking about Dr. King's experience in being called an untouchable. Because I'd heard that story before, and I know it's not because I'm so smart. I'm sure with the popularity of this book, that has come out more and more. That for me is what really got me hooked and interested. I appreciate it. And the house. I like the house metaphor, but the one with the permafrost, I was like, I feel like the editor did you a disservice in allowing you to start the book that way. that was me. I felt like what you should have done is started with chapter 2 and then gone back and built all that in.
Yeah, especially because the really heavy stuff is just a snippet. So you have to like figure out, am I with her? Am I against her? Am I impartial? I need to like do a lot more research than just the information she's presenting for that one point. Like, I'm trying to make this point, so I'm going to put this picture in your face.
And that's why for me it kind of started to feel a little bit like
I'm
I was
hearing a
being
song.
manipulated without just given the chance to just listen and process and move forward. So because for me, and once again, I don't want to blame it on my age, but I realized that maybe the response that King has, like, wait a minute, what do you mean caste? What do you mean untouchable? I can appreciate that, but I look forward to her filling in the lines on that. She started a great sketch, but I look forward to seeing how she puts the pieces back together again and how she colors it in and where she draws from. That's what I look forward to seeing. Like even what caste is the skeleton, race is the skin. I think, okay, now fill that in for me. Not just, oh yeah, go, I get it, let's run. I'm like, no, I want to hear you, give that argument to me in a way that really resonates.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to like I said, it started feeling like a scary movie, and I'm like, but it's a scary movie. It's a horror movie that you watch that you are in every day, and I was like, so I hope like reading this that I will find what are some ways out of this. Like me and my uncle were talking about it, and we're like, there's no way out, so quit, right? And so that whole idea of how do we continue? Oh, I see Mauricio must have dropped off. How do we work our way out of this? I wonder if she's going to touch on any of that. So, anyone else? Your final thoughts, where we're going, what you're interested in and looking forward to as we go forward? No? All right. Well, then, join us next time. Yay! Uh, April 21st, we might actually start at 6:15. I might change this whole slide and then be like, you should have looked for the advertisement. It's going to be a YouTube recording, so I'll act like I know how to record things, trim things, and put them up. So I'll probably be calling somebody on this phone, like, how do you do this? And then on Facebook Live. And here's a little gift for all of you before you go.
Oh, the sound isn't playing on it.
Wait, what? Y'all didn't hear the sound of any of that?
No, I saw you and you was talking and doing some of this.
That
That
makes
was
me
lovely.
so sad. I got to talk about my head in a box and how if you missed it, you're a sucker. Anyway, because I don't know technology, I'm gonna move along. I just want to thank each and every one of y'all for showing up and just being, first of all, flexible with all the different arrangements and then sharing. Because we could have all just been staring at each other and and silent, but the sharing, the sharing was a lot of caring. So thank you. Any last thoughts before we say bye?
I think you should get the theme music from Hollywood Squares and play it at the end each time.
Okay.
Or maybe the Brady Bunch.
Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm. I will write that down and see if I can't figure out how to make that play, how do I know how to make anything else play? But I shall try it. All right. Well, thank
Thank you,
y'all and
Rochelle.
good evening. See y'all next time.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed it. It was so fun for me. I hope that it was fun for you. That was what was in the video. All right. Let's